Good morning, splendid humans. I wrote an article for the Packet Pushers weekly newsletter, Human Infrastructure Magazine. And in issue 188, I had a feature article entitled Open Source Puppies Need Lots of Attention. And the whole idea was if you invest in open source software because maybe it's free or it's cool or you're just interested in it or whatever your reasons are, it wasn't free. It will exact a cost. You do have to invest something to make that open source software work. It's kind of like having a puppy. They're awesome. They're really cute and wiggly and a lot of fun, but they also have to go to the bathroom and they also need to be fed and you have to take them for walks and you have to train them to do all the things that you want them to do. And I thought that was an apt metaphor for what it's like when you're dealing with open source software. It all depends on what the package is and what you need it to do. And I used Observium as an example where, it puts a lot of graphs on the screen for you. But if we wanted it to do more, we would have had to invest a lot of time into coding and writing modules for it, etc. And by comparison, I had used something commercial, a SolarWinds tool that did a lot of great things for me right out of the gate. Of course, I had to pay for that. And yes, I had to put time into configuring the SolarWinds tool to do those things that I needed it to do. But it was all there for me and ready if I put the time investment in. A lot of you are very upset with this and saying that effectively commercial software is like a puppy too, and so on and so on. And that may be true. But I really had one point to make with this article, and I'll take the hit for this, that I wasn't strong enough in my conclusion with the point I was trying to make. But for me, really, the point is this. Oftentimes, we will choose open source software because it's free. We don't have to go hat in hand to our business stakeholders and say, we need money for this thing, because there's some open source tool that just reduces the friction, and many of us with our personalities are naturally conflict avoidant. And it seems like download this thing, throw it on a server, and off we go. I'm going to use that tool to do the thing, forgetting that it is a bit of a puppy that we need to train and take care of. Commercial software doesn't always work perfectly out of the gate. It is sometimes bug-ridden, and therefore it too maybe perhaps is like a puppy. But that's not exactly my point. What I really want you to think about here is trade-offs. When you make a choice for open source software, that's a trade-off versus a commercial solution. The trade-off might be financial, the trade-off might be time, the trade-off might be capability. But I'm weary of people who just glorify how wonderful open source software is and it's the answer for all the things. It isn't. It may fix certain things, it may be handy, and it may be a niche solution that fixes or solves certain problems for us, but that the world should all be open source and everything's wonderful that way, and commercial is just, it's too expensive and they never deliver what they promise. That's a naive way, I think, to look at what open source software is really doing for us. Again, I've said this before. I love open source software. I use lots of it in a lot of different ways, but I don't use it in a religious way. I don't use it in an idealistic way. I use it when it fits certain problems and when the trade-off of using it is worth it to me. Does that mean commercial software isn't a trade-off? No, of course it is, right? Of course it is. There are trade-offs of, as we've talked about in other videos, vendor lock-in, and there's trade-offs of expense, and there's trade-offs of training, and so on. Just don't look at open source software as free and the right answer for all the things. That's not really what it's all about. You are picking up a lot of responsibility to make use of that open source software for it to do everything that you need it to do.